Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs. This is going to be a little bit of a different type of discussion when it comes to cars that have been in my past. Because today we're actually going to talk about probably one of my favorite cars that we as a family have ever owned. And that would be our family minivan. Now I know, it makes me laugh because I'm going to talk about a minivan. But I have a lot of reason to talk about this minivan, and even though I don't have video like that focuses on the van itself, I do have this van in a lot of my home movies because, like I said, I filmed a lot when I was a kid, and that involved, us either going places or just filming around the house, and the van was outside. But needless to say, I've got a lot of footage on it. However, there's too much to really go through, and since it doesn't really focus on the van all that much, then I wasn't going to put it up. However, I do have pictures that I did one time in early 2000 when I was 13 of this vehicle. And when I took the pictures of the van, a friend of mine was hanging around with me, so he's actually in almost every single picture. So that's basically who that is. So he was just there hanging out. So he's in the pictures, and it is what it is. So let me go ahead and introduce to you what it was. The van was a 1995 Plymouth Voyager, and I don't think. Well, I know there was never an abbreviation after the name Voyager on the back of it, so I know it wasn't Nessie, it wasn't an Ellie, it was probably just the base Voyager, from my understanding. And to come to think of it, when I say base, it probably was the base, because there really was not any significant option on this van at all. Did not have a CD or cassette player when we got it. It had the bench seats in the back. It didn't have the captain's chairs in the second row. There really was not a whole lot to this van, but at the same time there kind of was. It did have power front windows. It did have cruise control. It did have a tilting steering wheel, and I'm assuming a lot of that was optional on a base. I'm sure that you were able to get those without going up to the next trim to qualify for those kind of options. But I still think it was a base model. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this vehicle in my vlog series regarding past vehicles is because this van kind of revolved around a lot of my childhood, in a sense that, I don't know, just as I was becoming a teenager and I was becoming more interested in cars, and I was I don't know, there was something about the van that, it just kind of, I was really interested in learning about the van. So, before I move on, the background of the Voyager is, our Voyager anyway, is we had actually gotten it in April of 1998. The minivan was probably about 3 years old when we got it. I don't remember the exact mileage, but one of the pictures that I do have, it's in the 50,000 mile range. So there probably was not a whole lot of mileage on it when we got it. We got it at Cole Brothers Dodge, which was located in Warren, Ohio. They have since closed. They've been closed for years now. The greatest thing about this too is growing up, when I was around the age that we got the van, which would have made me, I would have just turned 11. Growing up around that time, I took a nice interest in Chrysler vehicles because I loved the Jeeps, especially the Grand Cherokee as a kid. I loved the Dodge Ram, thanks to the movie Twister, because I love Twister. And we were actually buying, a Chrysler product. So I just remember when we were at the dealership and my parents were signing the papers for the car and stuff like that, I was sitting in every single Chrysler vehicle that was in that showroom. And I got a kick out of it. I was in my glory. And plus, something about the Chrysler vehicles from this time period, which, I don't know, there was something about them that just makes them really cool. It was built off of the K-car platform, which I'm sure, you know, a lot of the car enthusiasts out there know. Kind of, you know, the K-car platform pretty much saved Chrysler in the 80s, and, you know, the parts were from one car were interchangeable with parts from another K-car. And I mean, they just built this, you know, all these cars off of this one platform, platform base. And you know, the Dodge Caravan and the Plymouth Voyager and the Chrysler Town and Country, those were one of them. Chrysler had put out the Dodge Caravan and the Plymouth Voyager. They put them out for the 1984 model year, I believe it was, and that was, you know, Generation 1. Generation 2, which is what ours was, debuted for the 1991 model year, I think is what it was. And it kind of included the new styling. It was smoothed out a little bit. It wasn't so blocky as Generation 1 was. The interior was redesigned a bit. But for 1994, they upgraded those vans again. Mostly, well, the interior I know was changed for the reason that it kind of became a law that, you know, cars had to come equipped standard with dual front airbags. So with the old dashboard design, you were able to have a steering wheel airbag, but you weren't able to have a passenger airbag because I believe that had like a storage shelf on the top of the dashboard in front of the passenger. So there's no room to install the airbag. So they redid the dashboard for 1994, and that way the airbag was able to sit on top of the dashboard. And it just looked better. It looked a lot cleaner after that too. And 1995 was actually the last year for the second generation. Then it moved on up to the third generation for 1996, and I believe it was the early 2000s where the Plymouth model was discontinued because Chrysler kind of cut off Plymouth. And it became the Chrysler Voyager from there, and that didn't last too long. So that's the history of the Voyager itself. Our Voyager was actually powered by the optional 3-liter single overhead cam V6. It put out 142 horsepower, and it was actually built by Mitsubishi. I would later find out that this engine was used in a wide variety of other Chrysler cars. Even though, again, like I said, it was built by Mitsubishi, but it was used widely in the Chrysler brand. The Voyager usually came with a standard 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, but ours, like I said, had the optional 3-liter, and then on top of that, there was a 3.3-liter V6 that you could have gotten, and I'm thinking there was a 3.8 that you could have got also. So there were like 4 engines that you could have opted for with this minivan in this era. And it was driven through a 3-speed automatic transmission. I keep saying that, you know, our Voyager was one of the more memorable cars from my childhood. And like I said, I was 11 when we got the car, and I had a huge yearning to learn not only about cars, but to kind of learn more about Chrysler products. And this van was kind of the one that showed me, I don't know, a lot of the traditional Chrysler mechanics, I guess, at a young age. It was also the car that my dad actually started showing me. You know, I was at the age where I was watching him work on the cars, and you know, I think it was this car that I got to see my first oil change being done up front. You know, my dad was doing it, and I remember watching him do that. And from there, from there on out, you know, I just wanted to learn about everything that was under the hood of, you know, this car, and it kind of got me into wanting to learn more about what's under the hood of other cars. There's actually footage that I am going to share with you guys right now that it actually is kind of like a repair video, but I remember this was in close to the fall of 2000, and I was 13 years old when I filmed this. But I remember that this van, every time you had the air conditioning on, it kind of had this really weird smell. And we really weren't sure what it was. Now, the air conditioner, at some point during the ownership, it started leaking, Freon from the air conditioning. So my dad would recharge the air conditioner, and we put stop leak in it one time, and we thought maybe the stop leak was getting trapped somewhere, where you can smell it. And it was just a really weird, unpleasant smell from time to time when you were running the air conditioning. But we never got down to the bottom of it. So it was either the Freon was getting stuck, or the stop leak was getting stuck somewhere, or the moisture plug, where all the moisture runs out of the air conditioning system. It could have been blocked up, and it could have just been, molding or something. I don't know. But like I said, I don't think we ever found out what it was. But the video is basically of my dad tearing the dashboard of this van apart, and of course, when I found out he was doing it, I had to film it. I was intrigued to see exactly what he was going to do, but he tore the whole dashboard apart, and I think he was trying to find, see if the air conditioning lines were leaking behind the dashboard or something. But like I said, we never figured out, I don't think, what the issue was. He basically tore that all apart for nothing. But it was quite an experience to watch. So that's what you're about to see.
Hey, how come the trunk's open?
I hit the button while I unhooked it.
Oh.
I can't smell it that bad.
You don't smell it?
I smell it, but not as bad as you guys say. I gotta unhook the emergency brake release over here and get that out of there. Your mom got to drive it like this. She ain't gonna like it, but I can't help it. All this stuff's going in the garage. I don't want it. I don't want
put plastic around it so nothing happens.
I don't want it bothered.
This is something you don't see every day, so that's why I'm taping.
I really did not have to unhook this thing.
Air conditioner installed May 4th, 1995.
This flipper come off.
I could steal this here. Little shaft.
Give me one of the screwdrivers, Mike.
Anyone?
Yeah, that little one right there is good.
This one?
Yellow one. She's not gonna have a rear door release.
It's just open with the key.
Huh?
Can she open it with the key?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta look in your book and see what it's called.
Okay.
This goes into the dashboard. It's got coolant that goes into it. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'll bet you this is probably gonna turn out to be what the problem is. I'm gonna have to get one of them, and I'll bet you that son of a bee ain't gonna be cheap. I'll bet that leak detector's running right down inside here into the firewall. How much you wanna bet? Don't look hard to change though. You got one bolt here that pulls this seal off. Of course, you have to drain the air conditioning again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It must bolt on from the inside, because...
Did you just unhook something?
Yeah, thermocoupler there. Yeah, I'll bet you.
Oh, it's a plug.
I'll bet you, Michael. These are hoses. But... that's tomorrow's work. I did all I'm doing today. See, I gotta take all that metal out
Metal.
onto the dash. I gotta take out. Let me see, where am I at? All this.
That's hooked onto the car though, isn't it? Oh no, I see bolts.
Yeah, I gotta take all these bolts out. Take this whole metal section out, the whole thing. Then take this center metal section out,
Take that
and
last.
probably this back metal section out so I can get into this. It's called. I think it's right here. It comes up. There's a seal. And it hooks right here.
Ah,
That might be the heater core.
for lucky.
I got my fingers inside there.
Huh.
Now I can get them out. You can, but I don't know where I'd stick it.
Okay.
Like, I don't have anything to put it to. See, this has got to be out
Oh,
far
yeah.
enough so that cable will work. I think this is it right here, but it's a different type. It's a different year. Coolant temperature sending unit. That's what it's called. ECU.
Where's that at again?
This.
Oh, I thought you said that was the heater core.
No, heater core's over here with these two rubber hoses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That just adds to it. Because here's the thing now. If it turns out to be the heater core, where's all that leak detector going from the air conditioner? I'm wondering, this was sitting this way. This was upside down. This drain. I just wondered if it wasn't draining the condensation out of there.
Very interesting. I just cleaned that engine and you're getting it messed
Sorry.
up again.
Give me something to do next weekend.
Good. I get to play with the power tool.
Hook it up and let it run and see if anything comes off of that drip box. If that plug's turned sideways like that, and it's letting the water lay in there.
Right back there.
That,
Bring it over this way. Up a little bit.
there's a lot of moisture down there.
It's nice and warm in here. But it stinks.
You know, if the heater core was leaking, I'd have water on the floor. It don't make no sense.
An awesome story that I have related to this van, and my mom's not gonna like this, but she actually had an incident where she kind of messed up the passenger side of the van, and yeah, it's one of the most memorable features of the van is the large gash that went from the sliding door all the way through the back of the van. And I'll tell you that happened. My mom was trying to parallel park in front of this Dodge Ram pickup truck, and the Dodge Rams of that time period, the earlier ones, they kind of had like a rubber molding around the bumper. I believe it was like a rubber molding. Well, when she was going up to park, she kind of went up against the entire corner of his Ram and went all the way through the sliding door and through the back of the car, crushed in the rear wheel well, and it was, I don't know, it was quite an interesting thing. So to this day, I still like to kind of bring that up sometimes, and it doesn't seem to be as big a deal now, but it was funny. Oh, and then the trim piece from the front passenger door. It had come loose somehow after the incident where the door was caved in, the back door was caved in. So we were leaving a family member's house one time. We were on the highway, and I remember that molding was rattling, like it was coming loose, and I just remember hearing and seeing it from where I was just fly off the car. So that is why the molding piece is missing on the passenger door. When we were kids, we all had assigned seating. Not necessarily like we weren't told to sit there, but it just kind of became like our seats naturally. Like I would usually sit right next to the sliding door, and my younger brother would sit next to me by the window, and then the youngest two would sit in the way back all the time. And then from time to time, we would change it up, and somebody would actually sit up front, or, when you're young like that, you usually fight for front seat anyway. But we would kind of alternate, but every time that I sat in the back, I always sat next to the door. And I don't know why, I think it was because there was a nice opening right there next to the door, so it's like you kind of had room. I also remember after my mom damaged the door, every time you'd hit a bump, the like the sensor for the door being closed was like out of alignment or something, or because every time you would hit a bump, the door would jiggle and it would trigger the dome lights and the door ajar warning chime every time you hit a bump. So like the lights would flicker or something. So if it got real bad, I'd be sitting back there and I'd kind of be holding onto the handle of the door, and sometimes it would keep it from shaking so much. But that was something that was never fixed. Everybody in my family played sports and stuff when they were younger. They all played baseball, over the summer and stuff. And then there was me. I would just be sitting in this van, and I would be listening to the music on the radio, or I'd be drawing on my notepad or stuff. I mean, like I said, I spent a lot of time just sitting in the van doing my own thing, because I really wasn't the sports enthusiast, So if we were at one of my brother's baseball games or such, I would go to the concession stand, get nachos and cheese or something, and then I would just come back to the van and just listen to the radio. And like I said, I'd read my Car and Driver magazine or something, or I'd draw something, or it was like my own time. So that's kind of why it's been like a staple in my childhood, in a sense. Is just because that's what I did. And the weird thing about this car compared to its counterparts, the Dodge Caravan and the Chrysler Town and Country from this generation period, the Generation 2, I always found that the Plymouth looked better than both of them. And it's kind of weird because you would think, since the Dodge Caravan was more so the one that people knew about, it was the one that kind of stood out more, that would be, more appealing to most people. But I always thought that the Voyager looked better. I liked the front end of the Voyager. I liked the bright grille, and it didn't necessarily have the traditional Dodge, 4 vented grille. It had more so this nice chrome look to it. It had the Plymouth name in the lower right corner. And I don't know, the taillights looked better. They had the nice ripple design through it. I liked the hubcaps on this van, actually. The hubcaps were pretty cool. I know those hubcaps showed up on a lot of other Plymouth vehicles also. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I thought that the Voyager was more appealing to the eye than either one of the other two vans at that time. Alright guys, that concludes this vlog on one of the other vehicles from my past, the 1995 Plymouth Voyager. If you have a vehicle that sticks out from your past, why don't you go ahead and share it in the comments below. I'm anxious to kind of hear what you guys have to say. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to check out Mike's Vehicle Spotlight, which is the official vehicle touring segment on this channel. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that story. Hope you enjoyed this vlog. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.